Well, hey, everybody, this is Robert, and welcome to today's news report on Outbreak News TV. And the big story this week, of course, has been the newly declared outbreak of Ebola Sudan in the country of Uganda. And it's been several years since Uganda has declared an outbreak of Ebola. So let's go ahead and take a look a little bit about the situation in Uganda and some other information about the virus and the history of Ebola in the country of Uganda. Well, let me go ahead and start out with this map of Uganda. And you can see that the outbreak has been declared in Mubende, Uganda, and that's right around this area right here. It's about 90 miles west of the capital, Kampala. So if you see that red square, that's Kampala. Go about 90 miles west, and there's Mubende. And that's where the outbreak is taking place. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the Uganda Health Ministry had to say about this. And they had a very specific, detailed press release concerning this. And the press statement says, the Ministry of Health wishes to notify the nation of a confirmed Ebola virus disease outbreak in Mubende District. This was released on September 20th, yesterday. On September 15th, one suspected case patient of viral hemorrhagic fever was identified and isolated in Mubende Regional Referral Hospital. The suspect case patient was a 24-year-old male who lived in Gambano village of Madudu sub-county in Mubende district. He was referred from St. John's Medical Clinic in East Division of Mubende municipality, where he had just been referred. He presented with high-grade fever, convulsions, blood-stained vomitus and diarrhea, loss of appetite, and pain on swallowing. He also presented with chest pain, dry cough, and bleeding in the eyes. While in isolation at the hospital, he developed yellowing of the eyes, tea-colored urine, and complained of abdominal pain on the 17th of September. The clinical team took a sample from the patient having suspected viral hemorrhagic fever. The sample was received at the Viral Hemorrhagic Laboratory at the Uganda Virus Research Institute on the 18th, and the results were released on the 19th, confirming Ebola Sudan strain infection. Early in the morning of the 19th, the confirmed index case passed on, and the body is still currently kept at the Mubende Hospital mortuary, separated from other bodies awaiting safe and dignified burial. And it goes on to say, on suspicion of viral hemorrhagic fever, the district rapid response team initiated the investigations in the community as there were unconfirmed deaths in several communities. This was a result of community reports of strange illness and sudden deaths in the villages of Madudu and Karuma sub-counties. The district team verified the deaths as follows. A total of 6 fatalities had occurred in Karuma and Madudu sub-counties, 3 adults and 3 children, between the 1st of September and the 15th of September. So that's the details from Uganda. So they got 1 confirmed case of Ebola Sudan and at least 6 suspected cases, 3 adults, 3 children in some of the sub-counties. Of course, the World Health Organization released a statement on this also. And let me go ahead and bring that up real quick. Okay, and there we have that. And some of the things I wanted to add from this was there's a quote here that's important, and there's also some information about the vaccine that's very important. Quote, this is the first time in more than a decade that Uganda has recorded an outbreak of Sudan Ebola virus. We are working closely with the national health authorities to investigate the source of this outbreak while supporting the efforts to quickly roll out effective control measures, said Matshidiso Moeti, the World Health Organization Regional Director for Africa. Uganda is no stranger to effective Ebola control. And this is actually true. After the first outbreak of Ebola in Uganda 20 something years ago, which was the largest Ebola outbreak up until the 2014 through 2016 West Africa outbreak. After that first initial outbreak, they became very good at this. And you can see that their outbreaks shrunk dramatically over time. And Moeti goes on to say, thanks to its expertise, action has been taken to quickly detect the virus, and we can bank on this knowledge to halt the spread of infections. Now, something very important here, and something that's been going on in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the DRC, as they've had multiple outbreaks in recent years of Ebola Zaire, which there is a vaccine for now. And the World Health Organization did make a statement concerning the vaccine and ring vaccination. It says, while ring vaccination of high-risk people with Ervebo, that's the vaccine, that was highly effective in controlling the spread of Ebola in recent outbreaks in the DRC and elsewhere, this vaccine has only been approved to protect against the Zaire virus. Another vaccine produced by Johnson & Johnson may be effective, but has yet been specifically tested against Ebola Sudan. So I don't know if they're going to attempt using this Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but what we do know is, as of this moment, there is not an effectively tested vaccine for this particular strain of Ebola virus. However, I want to go ahead and point out that there is other people working on it. There's Johnson & Johnson, and I also found that the Sabin Vaccine Institute has been working on it. And here's a headline from one of their press releases. Let me see when that came out. Last year, about a year ago. Sabin Vaccine Institute receives additional $35.5 million from BARDA for further development of the Ebola Sudan and Marburg vaccines. That's good. We, as you know, we just reported recently on the declaration of the outbreak being over of Marburg virus in the country of Guinea. Okay. And let me see if there's any other details that I wanted to mention out of this. No, that should do. And let's see what the African CDC has to say about this. They basically reiterate much of the stuff that Uganda said and much of the stuff that the World Health Organization said. But they did say something interesting concerning surrounding countries. And here's a statement here. The Africa CDC recommends to all neighboring and affected districts to enhance their disease surveillance and laboratory testing, implement appropriate infection control measures, and heighten target risk communication and community awareness about the disease prevention and control measures. Africa CDC will work closely with all at-risk neighboring districts, member states, and partners to coordinate and align emergency preparedness and response activities across the region. So no doubt that the bordering countries to Uganda have put up the sirens concerning the potential spread of this virus into their country. So we will be keeping an eye on that. But like I said, Uganda has been very, very good concerning control. Let's take a look at some of these Ebola viruses just real quick, because not all Ebola viruses are the same. And here's a list of the 6 different strains of Ebola virus. And 4 of the 6 have been known to cause disease in human beings. That's, of course, the Zaire Ebola virus, Sudan Ebola virus, the Thai Forest Ebola virus, which used to be called the Ivory Coast Ebola virus, and the Bundibugyo virus, Ebola virus. Those 4 have been known to infect human beings. And there's 2 others, one incredibly new, that have not been known to cause disease in people. And that's, of course, the Reston virus and the Bombali virus, which was just identified in bats recently, 3 or 4 years ago. So those are the 4 strains. And of course, we're dealing with Zaire Ebola virus. It gets a lot of the headlines. That's been the most common one over the decades. And that is the one that was responsible for the West Africa outbreak, where people really got their first big taste of Ebola when 28,000 people contracted the virus and 11,000 died, making it by far the largest Ebola virus outbreak in our history. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Sudan Ebola virus, and how many outbreaks have there been over the years? And here we go. This is taken right out of Wikipedia, but it's accurate. And we see that since 1976, there's been 6 outbreaks, 7 including this one. And interesting to note that the first one, which was the 1976, was in South Sudan. And it almost happened concurrently with the first Zaire Ebola virus outbreak, which happened in the DRC, both in 1976. It was later determined they were 2 separate viruses, but very, very closely related. And you can see there at where it says 2000 to 2001, that's the one in Uganda. That was their first Ebola outbreak. It was a Sudan Ebola virus, 425 cases. And from 2000 until 2014, this was the largest Ebola outbreak on the books, was that first one in Uganda. All right, let's go ahead and finally skip over to Uganda and take a little bit of a look at their history with Ebola. And give me 1 second, and I'll get that up. Okay, so here we have the history of Ebola virus in Uganda. A couple, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we had a Zaire Ebola virus outbreak, 4 cases, which were all linked to the DRC outbreak that was going on due to cross-border movement. 2013, 2012, 2013, there was a Sudan Ebola virus outbreak, 6 cases, 3 fatalities, 50% case fatality rate. And those were, of course, just confirmed cases. 2012, there was a Sudan Ebola virus outbreak, 11 cases, 4 fatalities. 2011, there was another one case, 1 fatality. In 2007 to 2008, Uganda saw an outbreak of Bundibugyo Ebola virus. I hope I'm saying that right. Where there was 131 cases and 42 fatalities. And this actual Ebola virus outbreak had a case fatality of less than 50%. And of course, the first and the largest outbreak Uganda has ever seen was the one in 2000 to 2001, where they saw 425 cases and 224 deaths, 53% case fatality. This started in the Gulu and later spread to the Masindi and Mabara districts of Uganda. So that's the big news out of Africa. We have an Ebola virus outbreak declared in Uganda, the Mubende District. As of yesterday, it was declared. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, keeping an eye on the surrounding countries, surrounding districts. And I hope you found this informative, and I will see you next time on Outbreak News TV.